Over 2 million travelers on the first day of Thanksgiving air travel period breaks pandemic records. That's according to the TSA. This comes as officials warn businesses to be prepared for cyberattacks on Thanksgiving weekend. Disney World in Florida halts vaccine mandates after Florida legislature restricts requirements. This comes as Fauci says federal health officials could modify the definition of fully vaccinated. That's if data support the necessity of boosters. And some schools are announcing a shift back to remote learning. That's despite clear evidence of the drawbacks. Tune in to Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Let's begin with holiday travel news. The U.S. Transportation Security Administration expects to screen about 20 million air passengers during the Thanksgiving period. The TSA said airport security checkpoints nationwide will be busy till the end of the week. Passenger volumes could even come close to pre-pandemic levels. Delta Airlines said it expects to fly up to 5.6 million passengers from Friday through November 30th. That's nearly 300% over 2020's 2.2 million for the period. But it's still below the 6.3 million passengers during the same period in 2019. United Airlines said it anticipates more than 4.5 million passengers during this period. That's about 88% of 2019's volume. United says it's adding about 700 domestic flights for Thanksgiving week. It says it will fly 87% of its 2019 domestic schedule this month. And the TSA is already reporting signs of that volume, saying the first day of Thanksgiving air travel was already a record breaker. The TSA says more than 2 million people passed through U.S. airport security checkpoints on Friday. That's the highest checkpoint volume for a single day since the pandemic began. AAA predicts Thanksgiving travel overall will rebound to near pre-pandemic levels, with more than 53 million Americans expected to be on the move for the holiday. That's a 13% increase from last year. The TSA anticipates the Sunday after Thanksgiving will likely see the highest numbers of air travelers with people returning home. But they will probably not reach the all-time record set on the same day in 2019, when 2.9 million people were screened at airports. This comes as officials warn businesses to be prepared for cyber attacks on Thanksgiving weekend. The FBI and Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency are warning it could happen. While there's no specific threat, hackers have shown they like to strike on holidays and weekends. That's because IT staffing is generally light during these times, making response times from target companies slower. Authorities are advising businesses to make sure they have workers on call who can address attacks quickly if they happen. Earlier this year, IT supplier Kaseya was the victim of a ransomware attack on the 4th of July. That breach impacted up to 1,500 businesses. According to one cybersecurity firm, nearly a quarter of organizations don't have contingency plans for dealing with ransomware attacks over holidays. Now, some have been wondering about the vax requirements during busy holiday travel seasons. The CDC guidance for a safe Thanksgiving is more relaxed than last year for fully vaccinated families. Getting together can be done safely, saying for those who aren't vaccinated to gather inside with masks on. This comes as some companies are changing their vax requirements. Disney has dropped its COVID vaccine requirement for employees at Walt Disney World in Florida. That's following a special session by the state legislature. Now, Florida companies are prohibited from mandating that all employees get vaccinated. Instead, workers are allowed to be exempt for reasons like anticipated future pregnancy or recovering from prior COVID-19 infection. Employees can also opt for regular coronavirus testing or the use of personal protective equipment, which must be paid by the employer. The new Florida law calls for fines of as much as $50,000 per violation for large employers. A Disney spokesperson told the Washington Post that more than 90% of its active Florida employees had already been fully vaccinated. And this comes as the definition of fully vaccinated could change. In a Sunday interview with CNN, White House pandemic advisor Anthony Fauci said the definition of being fully vaccinated might get an adjustment and could include getting a booster shot if data deems it necessary.
And that's what we say, and that's what we mean when we say we let the science and the data follow. So we're going to take a look right now at what the durability is of the booster, and we're going to follow people who get boosted.
The The CDC currently defines fully vaccinated as 2 shots of a Pfizer or Moderna vaccine or 1 single shot of Johnson & Johnson. Fauci explained that so far the definition won't change, but acknowledged it could happen as his team continues to monitor the durability of booster shot protection.
People should not be put off by the fact that as time goes by and we learn more and more about the protection, that we might modify the guidelines. That's what we've been saying all along. By follow the science, things change and you have to follow the data.
CDC data shows that more than 59% of the U.S. population has been fully vaccinated. But comparing CDC data for the previous year to Johns Hopkins University's full pandemic death toll count, the virus-related deaths reported so far in 2021 have already surpassed the figure from 2020 by at least 400. And now, some schools are announcing a shift back to remote learning. That's despite clear evidence of the drawbacks. Detroit Public Schools this week announced students would go remote on Fridays in December in an effort to reduce COVID outbreaks. That's after several bus drivers tested positive or had children who tested positive. The superintendent decided to switch back to remote learning while several students are stuck in quarantine. Some have raised concerns of the long-term impacts of remote learning, especially after a McKinsey report found elementary school students in the U.S. ended the school year 4 to 5 months behind their expected level of academic achievement. The authors wrote that unless steps are taken to address unfinished learning, today students may earn $49,000 to $61,000 less over their lifetime, owing to the impact of the pandemic on their schooling. This comes as an Oregon middle school holds in-person classes due to students struggling with socialization skills. The school is in the Portland region. Superintendent Danna Diaz told families and staff the shifts in learning methods and isolation caused by COVID-19 closures and quarantines have taken a toll on the well-being of our students and staff. We are finding that some students are struggling with the socialization skills necessary for in-person learning, which is causing disruption in school for other students. Steve Padilla, Assistant Director of Public Relations for the Reynolds School District, confirmed that there were fights and other behavioral problems among students. He told the Oregonian it's not just fighting, it's disruptive behaviors as well. Students are disrupting other students, making it hard for them to learn. We need to take care of this now, adding it's urgent. The school closed its doors and provided distance learning starting from spring 2020. It provided hybrid in-person instruction and distance learning starting this spring. The school did not move back to full in-person learning until this fall semester. The school superintendent says to ensure Reynolds Middle School has the necessary social, emotional supports and safety protocols in place to provide a safe learning environment for all students, the school will be temporarily transitioning to short-term distance learning for approximately 2 weeks. During that time, administrators, teachers, and support staff will be working together to implement operational safety procedures for the return to in-person learning again starting on December 7th, 2021. Now, for a short update on that anonymous caller who outbid the group of cryptocurrency investors and snagged a copy of the Constitution for $43 million last Friday. His identity is now known, and it's caused quite a stir. Turns out it was billionaire CEO of the hedge fund Citadel, Ken Griffin. Sotheby's says the purchase set a world auction record for any book, manuscript, historical document, or printed text. Sotheby's was only expecting the document to fetch $20 million. As for the document, Griffin is lending it to a free museum in Arkansas. That's according to Reuters. According to Axios, Griffin is known as a crypto skeptic and knew how much his opponents had, thus letting him easily outbid them. Other outlets call it the ultimate troll move. Now, as for the other previous auction records, Sotheby's notes the record for a printed text stands at $14 million, which went to the Bay Psalm book in 2013. The Codex Leicester set the record for a book manuscript at $31 million, fetching the sum at Christie's in 1994. And the 1297 Magna Carta set the record for historical document, bagging $21 million in 2007. And now, before we end, the Smithsonian's Arts and Industries building finally reopened this weekend. That's after being closed for 17 years due to structural issues. America's first official national museum had been a mostly shuttered 258,000 square foot void while repairs were made. It is reopening with an appropriately named exhibition called Futures, which is meant to envision the world of tomorrow. Visitors who saw a preview say the interior is stunning, with the natural light supplied by 900 windows and a 108-foot high rotunda. The Futures exhibition runs through July 6th and is admission-free. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning into Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.